Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Godot Tomorrow. I am Emilio, Emi, as many of you know me. And yeah, we're going to cover many things today. We have a full stream ahead. How are you guys doing? I see people already saying hello in the chat. It's nice to have you here. Today we have many things. We have the announcement for the GodotCon, which we gave last week the news here first. We have the maintenance release of 4.6.1. We have the first snapshot of 4.7. And then we have a discussion about Godot in the news, which if you might have been online, you might have seen all those posts on the news publications about the AI slop and how it's affecting us. So we're going to discuss a little bit of all that. If you are ready, we can just get started. Last week I had like a O3D t-shirt. This week I have an Unreal t-shirt. Let's see which engine I can have a t-shirt for next week. But yeah, let's jump into it. All right. So first of all, we can go with the latest news. The GodotCon in Amsterdam. So we have more details. Last week I shared the call for proposals. We're still waiting for more proposals. So here on the announcement, you can go down and call for speakers and sponsors. You click here and then you have the form that you can fill out. This is if you want to submit a talk, if you want to submit a workshop, or if you have a game and you want to be there. Also, if you are interested in sponsoring, you can get in touch via the contact email. But if you want to just visit, the ticket shop is open. So you have here the three different options. First, the reduced ticket. That's if you're a student or you have any kind of disability. You can come at a lower price, which is 90 euros. They are more expensive than before, but each time the conference grows, we need to cover a little bit more of the costs. The standard ticket, which is just the standard, and the supporter, which you will get the supporter pin. This has been the same as in previous GodotCons, but yeah, really excited. The venue is going to be a cinema, so that's going to be interesting. Let's see if there's any interesting movie after the conference and we can stay and watch it together. But yeah, we have started working on the website, but there isn't much more information here. It's still using the GodotCon Boston kind of template, but with some new images. But still, you have the information here up to date. Oh, my camera is above the prices. Oh yeah, sorry. Anyway, you can check them on the link. I'm gonna leave a link here. Okay. Let's see. Now let's go to the first thing that I guess everybody here is interested in knowing, which is the dev snapshot. So the dev snapshot is the first one in the 4.7 series. As you might know, after we do a feature freeze, then everything needs to happen in the next version. So all the things that you're seeing right now are mostly things that happened during the 4.6 development, but didn't make it in time to the 4.6. So they make it to the 4.7. And there's a couple of things that are really interesting, and I've seen already some reactions online. But one of the highlights, it's the virtual joystick. So this one is for the joystick that you can use in mobile games to move around. There has been plugins for this for a long time. There's many different ones in the asset library, in the new asset store, and elsewhere. And I think it's nice to have like a native solution. And you might have noticed how between this and the previous version, we are taking a little bit more of a focus on the mobile exports and development. We've seen for a long time that the Android and the iOS side of things were a little bit neglected. So we're hoping to get it better. This is part of this project. So you have the three different types. If you played any mobile games, you might know them already. The static one, the dynamic one that's following you, and the dynamic following you, the dynamic just on when you press. They are very standard by now, so it's good that the engine will give you an option out of the box. Next up, it's the drawable textures. So this one has been requested a lot and gives you the ability to draw on a texture like you can see in this image. Honestly, it's something that, a lot of people use viewports and many other techniques. For some instances, you can use decals and stuff like that, but I think that this is like a much better solution. And I like this example by Bastian. If you want to play around with it, you can do so by clicking there. It's nice to see, and hope that people can make cool things with it. It's always good to have the plushie as an example for everything. The next one, it's also in the 3D space. Maybe I should move this like so you can see the entire post there. Which is the Path 3D collider snapping. So basically when you're selecting different points in a 3D space, instead of having to place them and fiddle around with the widget to see where it's going to fall, you can kind of snap it to the ground. This is great if you're working for some NPC's path or anything that you might want to move, and then you can adjust it manually. This is really cool usability improvement, so it's always welcome. And this one, personally, I've seen this one many times, and I'm happy to see it. We recommend a lot of people to use enums, but when you are previewing the game in the remote tree inspector, you only see the number. So now you will be able to see actually what the name of it was, which, more quality of life. It's very, very good to get. I see some questions already on the chat. After we do all the news, you can ask in the Q&A questions, and I will try to cover all of you. Okay. Vulkan ray tracing plumbing. So this one also was really excited for many people. I know of many private experiments with ray tracing that people did over the past year and so. But I think it's finally time, and it's officially making it into the proper engine. Of course, this is something that I don't know how many people will use. You have to take into account that now games, based on the current situation that we are in, that we're going to discuss a little bit later, are going to be less and less graphic intensive, because players basically are not going to have good computers. They are still going to have very old computers, and it doesn't seem like it will change anytime soon. So for those of you who do have a very good computer and want to take advantage of this, ray tracing will eventually come, of course. I'm not sure if it's going to be developed by the Godot Foundation or by a third party, but I know that eventually we'll make it. So yeah, if you were waiting for ray tracing, this is just the first step to get in there. And talking about first steps, also the HDR support, which has been a long time coming. It's been a lot of work to get it there, and now it's there on Windows. Of course, since this is a dev snapshot, we can, only add it in Windows and wait for the other OSs to be on par for the release. But ideally, for the 4.7 release, all the supported platforms should have HDR support. There's also a couple of smaller things that the team has been working on and the contributors have been working on. I opened a couple of them that got my attention. First one being, let me move this a little bit bigger. Okay. The improving the appearance of the built-in help. I think it's not a big change, but it's something that we see every day. Especially if you're working on a game, you're checking the docs all the time. So having a better visual separation between them, it's welcomed. Then we have the custom type of parent scripts into account when dropping already variables. So that means that when you're drag and dropping variables and creating them for your script, many times if you had custom nodes, you really want to make sure that it's that custom node that you created. So now it will generate that instead of just node 2D, node 2D, node 2D, node 2D, which it's a welcome addition. And this one, which honestly surprised that it took this long, but you can now have feel conic to the gradients. This is something that you expect some gradients to do and behave like this. Now you can do it. So really excited for this one. I know it's not, like when you see it like this, not too appealing, but it's very handy when you have the opportunity to do it. You combine it with others and you get, nice results. The examples are always hard to show, but when you see them in context, they make a lot of sense. And much more. If you want to see like the other changes on the blog post here, we have more highlights, and also you can see the interactive change log, which includes all the changes that made it into this release. So, you can go in the area that you're interested and explore more. So that's it for the 4.7 Dev 1 snapshot. As always, this doesn't mean that this is the final version of it. There will be a lot more until we reach beta. When we reach beta, we know that no new features are going to make it. But for now, you can expect in the next snapshots to see some improvements. Okay, let's go also to, I wanted to acknowledge the 4.6.1, which it's been already released a couple of days ago. So if you have updated to 4.6 and you are working on a project, you should download this one, give it a go, and just use it. Not a lot has changed in terms of the features you have. Everything here are fixes. But after the release, a lot of people notice a lot of things. We fixed them, and we want you to have those fixes without having to wait until 4.7. So yeah, there isn't any compatibility break or anything that you should do. It will be just 4.6, but better. And that's all I have for the news on the foundation side and on our blog. Now there was another thing that was happening during the past few days, which all started by this post. Well, initially by this post by Adrian, talking about the different pull requests generated by LLMs. And then we had Remy, which is our project maintainer, replying and giving a little bit of context. So I'm going to talk about this. First, I'm going to read the post, which is something that maybe not a lot of people did based on the conversations, but I want to read them anyway, so I don't misinterpret anything. But yeah, honestly, AI slop PRs are becoming increasingly draining and demoralizing for Godot maintainers. If you want to help, more funding so we can pay more maintainers to deal with the slop on top of everything we do already is the only viable solution I can think of. And a link to the fund. Basically, there's a lot of burden on us to check that the PRs are from real humans, and we need funding for keep doing this work. We find ourselves having to second guess every PR from new contributors multiple times per day. The description is verbose, LLM output. Is the code written at least partially by a human? Does the author understand the code they are sending? Did they test it? Are the test results made up? Is this code wrong because it was written by AI, or is it an honest mistake from an inexperienced human contributor? What do you do when you ask a PR author if they use AI because you're suspicious and they all reply, yes, I use it to write the PR description because I'm bad with English? Godot prides itself in being welcoming to new contributors, letting any engine user have the possibility to make an impact on their engine of choice. Maintainers spend a lot of time assisting new contributors to help them get PRs in a manageable state. I don't know how long we can keep it up. Okay, these were the posts, and I want to say that all of this has been happening for the previous years, but it's been increasing lately. And there's more and more people submitting this sort of posts, and you can feel in the in the maintainers chat, people really confused sometimes, because it's like they share a PR, and it's like, I'm not sure exactly like if this is something that it's actually done by a human or not. And ideally that shouldn't matter too much, like who made the PR, if it's going to improve Godot and somebody, a human, has tested it. Problem is that many people just make a PR without testing it, without making sure even if it compiles or not, and they just send it and hope for the best. I really don't know exactly the motivations behind it. Some people say that is to have a nice profile where you have contributed to open source project, but I don't think that any open source project is accepting this sort of PRs. So yeah, and I do know that people are very insecure when presenting some code to Godot, and they want it to be presented as good as possible, and that's not always something that you can do if you don't speak the English properly, and things like that. But sometimes you can feel that even if the intentions were good, nobody have read that code, and that code just doesn't do what it's claiming to do. And sometimes they modify different files, but all this investigation, you have to think that a lot of people say like you should ban AI contributions, but you cannot really. You don't have a toggle that says like, okay, if the PR has been made by AI, refuse it. So whenever we get a PR, we need somebody needs to go through all of that and needs to read and make sense of it. And sometimes they are good. Some people are sending PRs that are good. They use some AI assisted code to make them, but they worked alongside. Some other times they are not, and it's really hard. I've seen people suggesting you should disallow any PR to happen from people who are not already contributors or things like that. But in reality, most of the releases we have a lot of new contributors. If you check on our release pages, let me show a little bit here. Um, in the release pages, if you go all the way to the bottom here, we have some credits. Look at the amount of people that make one of these releases. If you see the small names in there, that might be because they send one or two PRs. So even if it's a small number of PRs that they send, it's a lot of people sending very good improvements. If we were to limit this somehow, that would mean that most people are not going to be able to help at all, and that means that the responsibility comes more and more to the Godot Foundation, which it would be great if we had unlimited funds. We could be hiring a lot of people to do everything, but it's not the reality. And I think that we are still a community project that thrives a lot by the community contributions. So we still need to deal with this somehow. But yeah, I wanted to address it because it's a situation that's been developing, and I don't think it's gonna get better. I think it's gonna get worse. Another solution that people have suggested was moving to another platform, such as Codeberg or self-hosted. And I want to say that we do have that already. Like that's a place where we can host code that's not GitHub. We have the Forjo, which is a self-hosted Git instance where we have some repositories that are public there, and we're gonna start moving more stuff in there. But it's not where we want everything to happen. Ideally, everything will be where the community is, and in this case, most of the community is on GitHub. We'll see. What has been interesting was that after these posts came out, the media started covering them, and they were talking, Godot veteran says ASLab pull requests have become overwhelming. And I think they are being a little bit over dramatic. Of course, it's something that's affecting us. We have here some news from a game developer, like same by Kotaku. which also covered this. And the latest one was PC Gamer. But I feel like, it's not that this is the end of the world for the engine. I think we're gonna survive it. But it was interesting to see how a thread of posts can make it into the news and then see everybody's takes on it. I think every time you see something like this, instead of reading the articles, you should go to the source and read what the author had to say, because also, these posts are a little bit sus. I'm gonna leave it there, but yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're gonna keep making whatever we can to deal with this, and that the overwhelming majority of the posts of the PRs are still by humans and are good contributions. So yeah, I see here some comments. Let's see. I was so stressed after sending my first little PR, but maintainers were very helpful and supportive. Detain 8020. That's great to read, right? And we want to keep that. Imagine if the first interaction you have with a project is somebody questioning if you are real or not. Like, it would make it really, really hard. It's already a bit overwhelming that when you submit code, you get some maintainers to tell you, like, oh, maybe you should change this. Why did you do this way and all that? But if they are also questioning if you're a real human or not, then the interactions are going to be really bad. And if you feel bad, why would you contribute? Why would you participate in the community? But yeah, I've heard Godot already has some strict rules on contributions, like from just within GitHub, it must compile, or that will just not compile if the styling isn't proper. Is that true or not? There are some like checks whenever you send a PR. Although if you are the first time user, they do not run automatically, but GitHub will try to compile the PR and make sure that it builds properly. But still, you can make AI slop that compiles. It's not that hard, and that's one of the problems, because sometimes they modify things that are completely unrelated. And the problem with this I also seen, which is some PRs are about popular features that people want, and then everybody's like, hey, why did you rejected this PR, which is doing something that everybody has been asking for a long time. But then you check the code and it's not doing what it claims it's doing. It's actually modifying stuff, and it really doesn't address anything. So it also creates the false expectation on people that the PR will be fixing something that it's not true. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't want to give too many details because yeah. I think Codeberry is also running Forge Show. Yeah, I think it's the same code base, but with different names. I think there has been like some forks maybe, or different versions of it. At the end of the day, it's not so complicated. Like Git itself, it's quite simple. What these platforms provide is everything around it, which is the important part, which is the issues, PRs, etc. Game from Scratch just dropped a video on ASLOP and game engines. Yeah, there has been other news that I really don't want to cover or give a lot of my opinion on what other engines are doing, but really surprising news. Not surprising, but still. I hope GitHub themselves will do things to address that. Well, unfortunately, I don't think that will be the case, because GitHub wants this, right? Like, if you put a metric that's how many contributions are happening in your platform, and you see that people are making more and more and more PRs and more commits and more everything, and they're using more AI, for them everything is going well. Like, internally, they why would they care, right? If their goal was for more people to use their platform. What I don't think they notice is that they are slowly eroding the trust the community had in GitHub, which is quite interesting, that a closed platform was for a very long time the place where you can go to contribute to open software. But since they started with all the AI features, I think they've been a bit deaf to their community in terms of what they needed. Um, and I'm not saying that the community is not asking for AI features. Many of them are, but how they have been implementing them, I think it's missing the mark. But they haven't been quote unquote punished, or like there was not really a lot of repercussions with those. They just keep adding things and hope that something will stick, and that's not how it works. So I doubt that they will be able to understand the damage until it's too late. They added a feature now to close the amount of contributions you can have, so you can only make a repository to be open for PRs from already existing contributors. But that doesn't address the issue of all the new people, all the newcomers that come in and want to help. Um, and if you have a platform where nobody wants you to interact with them, then it just loses the meaning. Like, why are you on GitHub if you cannot contribute to any open source project? Why are you on GitHub if nobody can send you code? It's a weird situation we're in. Um, let's see. GitHub manufactured this to offer a solution to the problem soon. I expect to pay to contribute to happen. I don't believe that's the case. Like, I don't know about it, and I think I've seen many times these sort of like arguments about somebody manufacturing a problem so they can sell you the solution. I don't think that that's the case at all. Um, if you've been in any big company, you know how difficult it is to make these sort of things. So to imagine that they were able to create something that's bad enough for then creating another product that will fix it, that's thinking very good of these big companies. I don't think they are doing this on purpose. I think that just the incentives they currently have are not aligned with what the community wants. And if this now develops into a solution that they can offer for you to pay to screen the users or to validate users and all that, I don't think that they will be related. I don't think that that would have been planned. I think that that would be more them reacting to the new situation instead of how do we sell people this? Let's create a problem so we can sell the solution. I think that's it's fun to think about like that sometimes if you are trying to make up some conspiracy theories, but that's not usually how things work. I don't know about how they have done it, but honestly, I don't think that that's the reason why they are doing what they do now. Bug bounties have been having similar issues with AI slop contributions. There was talk about maybe requiring bug hunters to put a small fee in escrow that returned when submitted bugs are valid to discourage slop submissions. Yeah, even like bug bounties have a lot of issues like that, even if you don't add the AI slop into the equation. But yeah, it's a tricky situation, especially because it mostly in the cybersecurity space, people create issues like, oh, this is a security issue and this is the fix to that issue, but the issue never existed in the first place. So at the moment, I don't think we're getting too many bug reports that are AI slop. Like the slop comes in forms of PRs, but if you are doing a bounty, then yes, because people want to fix an important issue. Does it really matter if the code is AI or not? Isn't the only important thing if it's working properly? It says FX5720. Yes, yeah. We don't care where the code is coming from, right? Like if it's generated by AI, assisted by AI, as long as a human has validated that that's improving the engine. The problem is that that's not the case. People do send code that is not working. If AI was meeting the promise that it was going to be fixing all these sort of things, there wouldn't be any issues. But that's just not the case. ISLOP code is usually bad quality. Sometimes it's okay, but the mass volumes of low quality code that isn't even read by a reasonable knowledge of a human just overwhelms maintainers. Exactly why Space Labs says. Um, yeah, that's our main issue at the moment. Um, let's say I had a script made with AI with enemy pathfinding that was 1,000 lines of code long. After reading the excellent documentation, I was able to do the same thing in 91 lines of code on my own. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's many times like the usual experience when you're using this sort of generated codes. Like I see many people, oh, the productivity has increased a lot because now the engineers are writing 10,000 lines of code instead of 1,000. And you know that meme where there's like a guy jumping and then falling into that thing, and I shouldn't try to describe a meme. Anyway, it's just doing a very complicated way to arriving to the same situation that you were before. I think the only thing that the AI code that exists right now is helping with is with very fancy autocompletion, which sometimes it gets wrong, but it's better than the default autocompletion, names of variables. Sometimes you're creating 2, 3 variables and, the names suggested are good. If you are creating boilerplate like a function, some loop variables or things like that, that's fine. Now, if you want to go deeper and deeper into making the game, you will see that things are not, good enough for it. But also, asking contributors to pay and you write the code is not gonna go down well with anyone. Yeah, exactly. You cannot actually ask people to pay first, because in many countries, first of all, in many countries you cannot even access GitHub, even if you wanted to. In the ones that you can, we have many contributors that might not have a credit card, a payment method that they can use to pay in advance. And then there's the question of, okay, let's say we do have this. What happens if you submit a PR that's a genuine PR, but nobody has the time to review it, or maybe it's a feature that it's not that valuable for most people, so it stays there. We have PRs open that are 2, 3 years old. Where is that money coming from? Like, is it going to be in a pool of money that's just locked in there? Let's say we have 4,000 PRs right now, and each of those you needed like 10 euros to submit it. Now you have 40,000 euros frozen somewhere in an account in the hopes that somebody will accept the PR, merge it, or do something like that. All of these ideas that people are throwing around are fun to leave as a reply on a Reddit thread or on a Blue Sky thread or whatever. But as soon as you try to think how the implementation would work, you will see that they are not so good ideas. I think the only thing, and it's a bit pessimistic, but of course, all I've been saying is my opinion. It's not the opinion of the organization, right? But I do think that the only solution is that these big companies are not incentivized by creating more and more and more AI products, and that the only AI products that exist are genuine and people like them and they are effective. For now, most companies have been pumping out products, seeing what sticks and what doesn't. But until the ecosystem adjusts and then it settles into what's been useful and what hasn't been useful, we're gonna still have these sort of issues. So yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's move on from the AI conversation. But let's say we're already in the Q&A section. So if you have some questions about Godot, feel free to ask. I will be happy to answer them. Let's see, irrelevant to the AI conversation at hand, but I read a blog about why Godot doesn't use ECS. In say Godot 5, would you consider implementing some ECS, or are you confident in the current engine architecture? I'm confident in the current engine architecture. I honestly, personally, never understood what the hype is around ECS. I think a lot of people who are asking for ECS have never used it, and they just think that's something that's going to make things easier. But there are other engines that can offer you that sort of infrastructure by default, right? Like if you want ECS, I believe Bevy is a good option. and you can use Baby, for instance. So the good things about other open source engines existing is that not everything has to be in main Godot. So if you want how we do things in Godot, you can use Godot. If you don't, you can use something else. And I think with ECS, it's been something that's a lot of marketing. I really don't know. I should do a deep dive on where the marketing came from, because there's a lot of marketing in software engineering where people get an idea that something is inherently better for everything, and they want that something to be everywhere, even if they are not using that. Um, and ECS is one of those things. I've seen some projects trying to include ECS on Godot. Some other people mention using the groups system in Godot as a way of doing some ECS. I don't know exactly the details for that, but in reality, I don't think that Godot 5 would do a change like that. But yeah. Let's see. Is there any talks of updating the physical Bone 2D nodes? I've heard there's some pretty rough bugs involving them, so I can say I know what they are since involving Bone 2D is complex. I think the animation, like 2D, like the skeleton and all that, I think is on the roadmap for the animation team to improve, but there isn't any timeline. What I do know, which has been a question before, which is grid maps. I know a lot of people were asking last stream about grid maps. That spawned like an internal conversation, and we have now a working group that's going to be addressing and improving grid maps for 4.7. So you can expect more news about that as they come along. I remember about the grid maps because last week I also got questions about the skeleton 2D. But I think it's a byproduct of the composition good, inheritance bad crowd. I guess you mean about the ACS. Yes. But in reality, you get a lot of like a different way of structuring your project, and a lot of how Godot is structured, it is already in a different way. So why change that because of a theoretical improvement, on the design of it? Again, there should be different options for you to use if you are really eager to use ECS. Mike Anton's GDC talk on data-oriented design with Unity really kicked off a big surge of interest in ECS. Yeah, I mean, then maybe that's the origin. I really need to go deeper into how it got so popular. But yeah. Does Godot 5 comes after 4.9 or is that 4.10? Okay, Godot 5 comes whenever we need to break compatibility. After Godot 4.9, it's 10, 11, 12, however many numbers we need to add. But Godot 5 will come whenever there is a really good reason to break compatibility. Any plans to improve SSR? There was a big improvement in SSR. I don't know exactly if you have any particular complaint, but there are some PRs, I believe, that are going to be improving it. But yeah. Can we know something new about the asset store? Yes. I can tell you that work is being done, and that's hopefully for 4.7 going to be replacing the asset library. Once that happens, then we're going to start adding the payment features and all that. But that's, I think, the same news that we had last time. So no. Okay, I think traits attributes will end up getting you a lot of the dev UX of components. Yeah, a lot of people have been kind of, very, very eager to get the traits as a replacement for this sort of ECS. But I would argue, and that's, again, my personal experience as a developer, I also think that traits and attributes are a little bit of marketing and a trend that I've seen, similar to ECS, where you have many games that don't use that. You can make a game that doesn't need any of that. So it's a nice added to what you have, but it's not something that's required. And I really don't know how people can be so passionate about it. I do respect it, and that's why we're trying to make it happen for 4.7. But I feel like after we implement traits, there will be some other fashionable programming language feature that everybody will want, and then it will be the new goal post, right? It's just moving it. Now it's this feature that we're all waiting for. But I guess it comes with the nature of this kind of projects, because all the people who were waiting for traits are gonna be happy. But yeah, current state of SSR has some artifacts going on that makes it unusable. In my opinion, posted an issue about it. If you posted an issue that has been triaged, it will probably be addressed by the rendering team. Like it's a new feature that got pre-made for 4.6. So any new thing that will be found, any issues, will need to be addressed in upcoming versions. But yeah, I'm sure it has been triaged already. If you have the link, maybe you can share it here. What is the status of C# and GD extension? So C# and GD extension is being now under internal testing. So different maintainers are testing the current implementation. And once there isn't any other objection, we can publish a blog post letting everybody know and welcoming some improvements. But we will need to be maintaining both versions of GDScript for a few versions, I believe, until the GD extension one is clearly better than the current one we have. Okay. Does the team ever intend to allow any track in the animation editor to use Bezier curves instead of it being its own track type? That's honestly for the animation team to say. I know they've been a little bit strict into what they allow and what they don't allow, because the code is quite complicated already. There has been some talks about refactoring the animation player and to making improvements so that these sort of features will be easier to improve, to add. But at the moment, yeah, you will need to join an animation team meeting and discuss with them about the details. Hey ho, any news on texture streaming? Nope, no news on texture streaming. Peter Morphe continues. What will happen to the old projects in the asset library? Will they be transferred to the new one? So that was considered, transferring all the asset library assets to the asset store. But in reality, there's many assets who get zero traffic and are very outdated for very old Godot versions. So I don't think it makes sense to do it automatically. It's quite easy to publish on the new one, and there's different requirements of how you need to present your assets to the world. So making an automated tool wouldn't work that well. And also, we will need to match the asset library account with the asset store account, which are different kinds of systems. So right now, you have like a Godot account that's including the developer chat, the showreel voting, the donations, like the new asset store. And then there's a different type of account, which is the asset library account, because it was a parallel system. So we will need to match that. There's many complications into doing it automatically. So I think it's better for people to submit. Now, once it gets merged and people know about it, I think there will be some time for people to publish. But I think the most popular plugins are already, almost everyone has already published in the asset store. So it should be fine. We're not going to be removing the old asset library, even after it's no longer receiving any updates, because the older versions of the engine will still need to get the data from there. So that will still exist, but we will not be accepting new submissions of new assets. And yeah, we will point people to the asset store instead. But yeah. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Maybe I skipped a few. Feel free to ask again if I missed yours. Last time I checked the stream and I missed some questions from people, and then they didn't ask again, so I didn't see it. I'm really sorry. Um, is there any updates coming to the particle system? Yes, yes. There are many updates coming to the particle system. We actually have hired a person to improve and make some improvements for PFX artists. So I really encourage you to go into the Godot developer chat, join the different channels for VFX and things like that, and give feedback to any of the conversations. The biggest issue we are having right now is that whenever we have somebody working on a feature, people don't give any feedback until it gets merged. And then when it gets merged and in the next snapshot, everybody then gives feedback. But yeah, expect some updates on the particle system. Let's see. Also, a system to make time maps have area bodies would be nice. I don't understand the question, but if you mean for collisions and stuff like that, I mean, you can make tiles that are already nodes. I really don't understand. What payment system will the asset store use? Stripe, PayPal? Can you disclose the sort of cut the asset store is going to take? So the cut, I'm not going to disclose it, but we want it to be lower than the other stores, and then add an option for people to voluntarily add more. And for the payment system, we're going to use probably Stripe, but we need to find and this has been super hard, some other sort of payment processor that allows for people that are not supported by Stripe, like countries that are not supported by Stripe, and integrated as well. A big issue of this is, some other payment methods who are not as standard that are really important. And yeah, we'll see. We are not going to be using PayPal if we can. PayPal has been a bit flaky, and there's many issues. They changed the API without announcing it, and we had many issues with the first iteration of the developer fund that was using exclusively PayPal, and we don't want to go through that again. Our editor level plugins are still planned? Yes, they are still planned. There needs to be better planning, but they are still planned on the roadmap. So asset library is being removed. It's not going to be removed. It's going to be just frozen, and it's going to be replaced by the asset store. A blog post on upcoming features before merging could be cool. Yes, that can work. The problem is that making a blog post takes a long time. Then if the feature keeps evolving, you need to keep evolving the blog post, because the conversation happens very quick and it gets outdated quite soon. I think the best we can do, and what we're going to try, is just merge the features as they are and then see what the feedback is. If we add the new improvements on one of the highlights, people are going to try it out and they're going to tell us. And then in future versions, we polish it until we get to the beta version. But yeah. Is there a physics maintainer? Asked Jadon Barnes. There is, sort of, because we're using the external library called Jolt. There is a person who is doing a lot of the work of integrating that, but there's also the Jolt developer who is improving and making Jolt. So that's more or less the team. There are other contributors like Art Buring, who has been contributing in that area for some time, but since we made Jolt the default physics engine, I don't think that we will have to do a lot in our end, thankfully. But yeah. What monitor is that in the background? So that's Teletech. It's a very, very cheap monitor, CRT. It cost me 10 euros second hand by a very old couple that were selling it on a second hand website, and I got it, and it's great. I encourage you to go and look on your local websites. They are not so expensive, and you don't really need to buy the fancy Sony ones or like the cool brands, cool Japanese screens. They all look good. Um, yeah. So you recommend that programmers? Sorry, I should say the names first. Morphe asks, so you recommend that programmers who are more familiar with ECS use Bevy and those who are more familiar with OOP use Godot? Yeah, I do think so. Like, especially if you are starting a project right now and you really, really need ECS because it's the solution to all the problems created by humanity, which is how people present ECS, you should use Bevy or you should use any other engine that is already ECS. I don't think that you need to modify Godot to adapt to that. I think there are ways for you to structure your game data in a way that it's very similar to ECS and take advantage of that. But if you really want, if you are doing the check marks, like the engine needs to have this, the engine needs to have that, and one of those things is ECS, then you should pick one that already has that on the marketing page. But yeah. Are there going to be official plugins from the foundation? Yes. Yes, there are going to be official plugins from the foundation. There are already for the XR tools, many official plugins. And we want to do a few, especially for things like video player and things like that, who might require different sort of licensing or that they don't work in every platform. So we cannot include that in the main Godot branch because imagine that you export the game and suddenly it doesn't work in Android and it works everywhere else. But if it's an extension made by us, I think that that would be good enough because, you know, before downloading and installing it, you will know what are the limitations. And then also there's many SDKs and plugins that we are developing at the foundation for people, especially for mobile users who need some special SDKs. And those are going to be maintained by us. So they're going to be like official plugins. But yeah, if we make a good way of having editor level plugins and better templates and all that, I think that we will be able to move many of our development of new features and stuff like that to extensions. And once they become popular enough, make them part of the main experience for everybody. But ideally, Godot should be as modular as possible. So you only have the things that you want for your game, not everything else. But yeah. You can use maybe ECS in Godot using GD extension. Yeah. I mean, there's many things you can do, right? Like you can code your ECS layer in C++ or as a GD extension in any other language, and make it work. But in reality, we shouldn't be the ones telling you what to do or what not to do. But if you want something out of the box, yeah, it's a bit more tricky. All right, so it's been already almost an hour. I think I'm gonna start closing. So if you have some final questions, talk now or wait for the next week. And also a reminder, please, if you want to participate in the GodotCon in Amsterdam, submit your talk or buy a ticket and see you there. We're gonna be a lot of the maintainers. I'm gonna be there. Many other people are gonna be there. It's always a lot of fun. It's also a good excuse to go and visit a nice city. This also is going to happen in a building that's very close to Blender offices. So if you're a fan of Blender, you already might know where it is. But yeah, hope to see you all there. Yeah, super excited about it. Okay. Thank you so much. I hope you liked this edition of Godot Tomorrow. See you next week at the same time. Thank you all for everything. Thank you for the questions. I hope you liked the answers. I see Tim saying would be cool to go. I hope to see you there. No, I will see you there. It's not an option. You have to come. And yeah, see you in 7 days. Bye, everyone.